Welcome to the virtual 2020 IPAC Unity Forum. We will have a Q&A with the candidates, one question at a time.
In the international arena, do you believe in the responsibility to protect Doctrine, and when should Americans engage to protect human rights, and in what ways?
Hello, again, this is Dr. Malik. I strongly believe on the responsibility to protect every human being. That is known as R2P. Is an international norm that seeks to protect all human beings regardless of race, religion, color from oppression. We as a world community have to come together and respect each other and form alliances with each other to honor the dignity, life, and rights of all human beings, and that includes the women and the men. All over the world, we know that women are the one who suffers most and are the first victims of any oppression. So we have to make sure, as a leader of the free world, that we form alliances with our friends and other countries so the human rights and dignity are protected all the time, regardless of where they come from, what are their belief system, what are their political philosophy. But we have to make sure that no human being are oppressed, tortured, or killed, or any form of genocide. So let's come together as a human nation, as a human family, protect each other and respect each other's rights. Thank you.
Hi, I am Brenda Lopez Romero, and I'm running to be your next Congresswoman for the 7th. I have an expertise in national security, foreign policy, and diplomacy, and a specialization from Syracuse University in national security and counterterrorism law. This is vitally important for your next Congresswoman to be knowledgeable about the important international issues that affect us. That is why I believe that we must reclaim our commitment to end all profane forms of violence and persecution throughout the world. But I also believe that here in the United States and abroad, we must ensure to protect human rights and our national security, and understand that it is not a mutually exclusive. And for a prosperous nation like ours, we must safeguard both human dignity and our own security. That is why we need to ensure that in Congress we return to our constitutional mandate to be the ones that determine when and where we get involved in any intervention, conflict abroad. That being said, it is also important to work with global institutions like the UN to ensure that we have an understanding amongst all our partners and allies to ensure that we have a safe world for me, for you, and also from our neighbor anywhere around our globe.
One very important piece of American foreign policy for many years has been that we have supported human rights and democracy, both in our country and around the world. Sometimes this has been imperfect, but we have pushed towards those ideals in many ways at many times. And this is very, very important. So absolutely, I support the responsibility to protect, which means that we support human rights and we seek to intervene in situations when there may be a genocide or some other mass atrocity. My sister was a doctor in Kosovo during the effort by the United States to stop the genocide in that country. So this is something that's very important to me, and it's also very personal to me, that we reestablish American moral leadership in this country and around the world. Most recently, watching the betrayal of the Kurds in northern Syria was sickening and very, very disturbing. In order to do this, we need to reestablish America as a leader in global affairs, and one that does reaffirm human rights, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and democracy. And we need to also make sure that we are really supporting the international institutions, such as the United Nations and NATO, that are very, very, very important for keeping the peace and keeping the world order stable and supporting all people.
So the third question, in the international arena, do you believe in the responsibility to protect doctrine, and when should America engage to protect human rights, and in what way? So I passionately believe in the responsibility to protect, enshrined by the United Nations Security Council resolution in 2006. The United States has held itself up as the greatest and most ardent champion of human rights since the end of the Second World War. And through our leadership, the first International Criminal Court was created at Nuremberg. The Convention on the Prevention of Genocide was adopted, and the United Nations came to be. These achievements in our human rights record show our commitment to the cause that underlie the responsibility to protect. However, the United States has not had a perfect record on adhering to these principles. On our watch, genocide occurred in Rwanda, while large-scale campaigns of ethnic cleansing and war crimes ravaged the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Iraq, and Yemen. Our leaders, both past and present, have frequently abandoned these principles in favor of cynical political interests. When our leaders are lacking the moral fortitude to do what is required of us, it is the duty of Congress to act. A strong Congress is necessary to assume the mantle of human rights that has been abandoned by this administration. That being said, the responsibility to protect does not require military intervention. I believe that military interventions should be considered an absolute last resort. In many cases, overseas adventurism such was carried out in Iraq and Afghanistan have near guaranteed risk of destabilizing a situation into even greater chaos and danger. Better options exist than military interventions. Economic investment with the grassroots of other nations will empower local populations to seize control of their own destinies and build a more just nation. Additionally, the United States is one of the only nations that can intervene diplomatically and impartially mediate a conflict. Finally, our position as a leading global power allows us to work with other nations in a communal effort that leverages the expertise and linkages of the whole international community. So for the first time in human history, the world has come together to agree that some crimes transcend the bounds of national sovereignty to become crimes against all of humanity. The United States is the only nation able to represent the cause of human rights around the world. We simply need the moral leadership to do so.
In this day and age, the United States cannot be the global policeman. I do not support conducting endless military interventions while we face so many challenges at home. And as a veteran, I do not think that we should ever take lightly the decision to put our soldiers in harm's way. But there are times when crises demand moral leadership, and America should not shy away from its role as a guarantor of human rights. Limited intervention with a clear objective, such as President Obama's action to prevent the massacre of the Yazidis, should still have a place in our foreign policy, especially in a time when authoritarianism is on the rise. I firmly believe, however, that we should use all the resources at our disposal to defend human rights. Whether that's through economic or diplomatic means, we should put pressure on oppressive regimes to treat all their people with dignity and respect.